abandoning our values.
With us now from our Washington Bureau is retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. General Flynn is the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency under President Obama. And General, we welcome you once again to this program. What did you think of his speech?
Well, first of all, Dr. Robertson, thank you very much for this invitation. And I just want to remind your listeners of what an important day this is in the history of the United States of America, December 7th, where we made, we had the tragic attack on Pearl Harbor, and it caused our nation to defeat Nazism and imperialism. And so I just, as a reminder, those are other threats that our nation has faced over our history. And we are now facing another threat, this threat of radical Islamism. And I really want to cheer for our president on one hand, but I just don't see the level of confidence or the level of clarity in anything that he has said last night or, frankly, over the last year or so. I mean, the one thing about the truth, the truth, Doctor, fears no questions. And I think that we are left after last night with a lot more questions. And what the people of this country want to hear is they want to hear the truth. And the truth is that we are facing a very cancerous, radical form of a religion that needs to come to grips with itself. And I have said in other occasions, Doctor, that this is a religion that requires a reformation of itself and some real inward looking as to what exactly it is that we are facing.
In your work, I understand,
very dangerous.
I understand you've interrogated hundreds of Taliban and other type of radicals in the Middle East.
Members of Al-Qaeda as well.
Al-Qaeda as well. What do they think in relation to Islam? Do they think they're the true followers of Islam?
They do. I mean, they do. I mean, if you read the Quran, if you read the Hadiths, which are essentially the beliefs within the Quran, you talk to these individuals who have a deeply rooted belief in this Sharia law, a law that in fact is the part of constitutions of many of the Muslim countries around the world. I mean, these are true believers. This is not a criminal organization. This is not a cult. This is an organization that has a deeply held religious belief, and it is apocalyptic. They have established this caliphate with a seat in the area around the Levant, which is Syria and Iraq and Lebanon, and they have global aspirations, which we have already seen. Now, this is not an organization that suddenly popped up in the last year. This actually was, they began to rise really after we defeated them in Iraq around the 2010-2011 timeframe. And we saw them begin to rise up again in the 2011, all the way up to here. And it's been going on for some time, Doctor. I mean, we're talking about really what I would describe as a 30-year plan. And we're trying to, personally, and with some others who are really big believers in our national security, we're trying to figure out which time frame in their campaign are they in? Are they in the attack phase, so to speak, and are we beginning to see the beginnings of that?
Well, let me ask you something. You mentioned, of course, Pearl Harbor Day, and I was just a little fellow then, but I remember it clearly. President Roosevelt gave a masterful speech, December the 7th, the day that'll live in infamy. It was a great line. But he rallied America to fight fascism, to fight the Japanese, to fight the Nazis in Germany. There was no question who our enemy was. Why will not the President Obama clearly state who our enemy is? I mean, his speech yesterday was kind of like, well, we got to be nice to these people because we want them as our friends.
Yeah. So it's been very clear to him, been clearly briefed to him, stated to him. I know he's had documents put in front of him describing who this enemy is. And I think that it's been a real problem and, a tragedy in some accounts that he doesn't, or he refuses to clearly identify the enemy. Doctor, I've been an intelligence officer and have had to clearly identify the enemy to many commanders on many battlefields over my career. And if I could not clearly identify the enemy, then I wasn't worth it wasn't worth the salt in my body to those commanders. until you clearly identify the enemy, you cannot then decide how to defeat it, how to destroy it, or how to, in this case, eliminate this enemy. So the lack of that clarity and why the president refuses to do this, and like I said earlier, I want to cheer for our president. Any American worth their salt wants to cheer for their president, but he's not giving us a lot to cheer about right now. And actually, I find his statements, even last night, that it lacks confidence. He doesn't sound like he's confident in what it is that he's saying. The fact that he even had to say that it was an act of terror didn't seem like he wanted to say that. I mean, he has got to be strong. He's got to be confident. We want to see leadership out of our president so we can cheer for him so this country can figure out what it is that we are going to have to face when we talk about this radical form of Islamism, which is going to take a long time to eliminate.
General, at least the president drew a line in the sand having to do with chemical weapons in Syria, did nothing about it having made that statement. We led from behind in Syria. We did almost nothing in Syria. Did the Defense Intelligence Agency give a clear picture to the administration of what they were facing and what would happen if we didn't act in Syria?
Yes, I mean, and I would say a combination of the intelligence efforts certainly on the military intelligence side, have been very clear. I think this use of chemical weapons in Syria was an unbelievable act of outrage, never mind violation of international law and international moral behavior to use really deadly chemicals against your own people and killed quite a number and did it more than once. And so we should either not state our red lines, or if we state them, we must do something about them instead of no action. And that takes away a lot of shine or respect from our nation. I mean, people around the world expect the United States to be the global leader. And there's a reason why we are in this position, and we should not allow ourselves to be seen as an equal to other nations on the world, because our ideals and our values are not equal to others. We believe in freedom. We believe in the equality of human beings. So anyway, there's been a series of things that have happened, Doctor, that I have been very, very disappointed in the actions. And frankly, that's partly why I'm sitting here with you today. And I left government was because, you get to a point where you, as a soldier, which is what I am, down deep, you salute and you move out when you can't, agree with those that you're working for.
General, I want to ask you one last question. The DIA gave clear guidance to the president, but he had an election ahead of him, and he had a particular premise he wanted to put out, and your intel didn't fit that premise. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would use the narrative, Doctor.
Yeah.
The narrative was Al-Qaeda was on the run. They were defeated. We had, previously killed bin Laden. So there was a sense of sort of, I would just describe it as political euphoria, and it didn't fit a particular narrative. And therefore, that they did not want to accept that, well, in fact, these guys are rising. They are increasing. At that time, my assessment, our assessment, was that the number of groups had almost doubled in size. These groups of terrorist groups that were associated in some capacity with Al-Qaeda. So for anybody to say that, that they were on the run is irresponsible. And we now are facing a problem that we've given a lot of time to grow, and we're going to have to deal with it in vastly different ways, Doctor. I mean, this is, for your listeners, and I want people to understand that this enemy has the willingness and intent to steal away our way of life. And what we have to do is we have to take away their excuses for the kind of vitriol and these ideas that they are trying to expose to not a few thousand, but millions around the world. So this is going to be a long-term problem. We're going to have a lot to face, and we're going to have to really come up with a far more detailed campaign and a strategy that goes with that. And it's not going to be this next president. This next president hopefully will get us started, but this is something that's going to transcend many presidents, potentially for another generation or longer, until we really figure out what it is that we are going to have to do in order to really eliminate this idea.
Well, General Flynn, thank you so much for the clarity of your voice, and we appreciate the stand you're taking. General Michael Flynn, God bless you.
Thanks, Doctor. Thank you.